Good morning, Lexington County. This is Paul Kirby with Good Morning Lexington County and the Sheely's PDQ Morning Show. Every weekday morning, we come to you live with all the news about Lexington County. We'll tell you what's been happening overnight, and in this case, over the weekend. And boy, was it an eventful weekend. We'll tell you about the weather. We'll bring you up to date with the traffic and emergency report. Of course, we do headlines, education, sports when we got it. My name is Paul Kirby, and we are coming to you live from the Sheely's PDQ studio, which is located at 1251 Main Street in South Congaree. Let me tell you about that weather because, man, it is a little bit chilly outside right now. It's saying it's 30 degrees but sunny. Later on in the day, we're going to 61 for a high, mostly sunny, 36 with some clouds and cold tonight, and tomorrow 62 for a high, and maybe a few afternoon showers in the afternoon. And that is brought to you by Capital City Lake Murray Country, our dear friend Ms. Miriam Atria, and all her staff at Capital City Lake Murray Country. A week from this Thursday, they're having their grand opening ribbon cutting on their souvenir shop. You can find them on North Lake Drive, right off the Lake Murray Dam. But look, the best way to find out more about Lake Murray Country and all the wonderful things to see and do here in Richland, Lexington, Newberry, and Saluda County is to simply go to our website, thelexingtonledger.com. Go to the very top. When you see the little banner that says Capital City Lake Murray Country, click on that. It opens up their website. And if you think you know about the Midlands, I'm sorry to tell you, you're wrong. There's something new to do every day. A lot of it's inside when it's cold, so you can go there and there will be places to stay, wonderful places to eat, shows to see, activities for the kids, the boo at the zoo, and the lights for Christmas now. So all kind of things to do, and it's all listed right there on Capital City Lake Murray Country's website. Check it out today. And our traffic, boy. Well, it is thinning down a little bit now, but we have one at Chris Drive at Sunset that we know West Columbia Fire Department's been out on. That is right in front of the McDonald's and the Rushes over close to the hospital. Be careful in that area. I would imagine that is a mess. Nazareth Road at South Lake. James just left. Ha ha. Hope he goes that way. He'll be stuck in traffic forever. That's between here and his office. And then 104 eastbound of 26. There's two in there, and we know the fire department's on one because one has injuries and one does not. We heard Irmo Fire District go out on that, and when they go out in that area, normally they're assisted by Columbia with either Rescue 2 or Station 20 or one of those in there like that. So you're going to see fire trucks, you're going to see probably SHEP officers, you're going to see state troopers. So let's watch in that area that's right near Piney Grove and 26. Your traffic report is always brought to you by Shepherd's IGA, as James likes to call it, the IGA. The IGA is located at 861 Pine Street in Pillion, and it is your headquarters for the very freshest produce you can get when it comes to holiday eating, like Thanksgiving this Thursday. And don't forget, if you decide not to go with the turkey and the ham, you can always have certified Angus beef. He's got the roast to the chuck. It doesn't matter. He's got it. Certified Angus beef is a better quality of beef. Look at the beef. Look at the right-hand end of the case in the black trays, and if it's in a black trays, it indicates that it is certified Angus beef. That's 861 Pine Street in Pillion. Now we are back with a guest today, as we normally try to do about 7:50 in the morning every morning, and it is Tripp Williamson. Tripp Williamson is running for a council seat in Batesburg-Leesville, and Tripp, because nobody received 50% plus one in Batesburg-Leesville, that makes no winner. So we have to have a runoff, and you and Mr. Olin Gambrell were the two candidates that were locked into the runoff. There was a third candidate, am I correct?
Yes, there was.
But the top two vote getters go against each other, and it's tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Polls open at 7 o'clock, I believe.
7 to 7,
Yep.
I believe. Exactly right. Now, where is the polling going to happen in District 2? Is it at the town hall?
No, so the polling for District 2 happens at the town park. It's the building next to the Midlands Technical College.
So that beautiful
campus.
park there, the college park.
Yes, sir. There's a cafeteria there that they hold all of that end of town's voting precinct.
All right. Well, we had Mr. Gambrell in last week, and now you're here. Tell us who Tripp is. Tell us a little bit about where he grew up, married, no married, children, no children, what he does for a living. Tell us a little bit about who Tripp is.
Well, I could probably talk for days about that, but I'll try to keep it short. No, as Paul was saying, my name's Tripp Williamson, and I'm a lifelong resident of Batesburg-Leesville. My parents moved here, 30 years ago, and I've been here since then. And my father, volunteer fireman, also an engineer at a local manufacturing facility. My mother works at Sheely's Barbecue, and so I'm real rooted in the community. I'm an Eagle Scout. I participated in Troop 29 and obtained my Eagle Scout, and went off to college. I got a degree from Midlands Tech in computer science, and I currently work as Director of Technology for a construction company in Lexington. I just got married. My wife and I married back in April, and currently have no kids, but she has about 30. She's a Montessori kindergarten teacher at Lexington 3, Batesburg-Leesville Schools, and that's a pretty decent rundown of who I am and where I come from.
Well, now, your dad was a firefighter. Have you ever fought fire?
I have not, but I've always participated with him in the, fundraising opportunities and equipment checks and that sort of thing. So I've been around it my entire life.
Yeah, if your dad's a firefighter, you kind of grow up in it. And by the way, I'm an Eagle Scout as well, so good to see you and congratulations. A lot of great folks are. Sheriff Coon, our county sheriff, is an Eagle Scout as well, and we learn a lot of character and creativity and all kind of things by being scouts, and that certainly is important in your life. So now, you grew up around the town of Batesburg-Leesville. You went to Batesburg-Leesville schools.
I did, yes.
And then you went to Midlands Tech. Now, did you go to Midlands Tech there in Batesburg-Leesville? Or that's relatively a new opportunity.
Well, let me tell you, about the time that all came about, I was in school, and there was a specific semester of my technical college experience that I had classes at 8 o'clock in Batesburg, lunchtime at airport, and 5 o'clock p.m. at Beltline.
Wow!
In the same day. So
you were a well-traveled
I
young
was
man.
a well-traveled person during some of my college semesters.
I understand completely. Well, now, you're young, you're married, you just got married. A lot of folks don't have politics on their mind 5-6 months after they got married. What made Tripp Williamson decide to want to be a city councilman for the city of Batesburg?
Well, politics aside, I'm a problem solver. In previous employment opportunities, matter of fact, I just saw on my timeline, I got my first patent 3 years ago.
Oh, really?
So I'm a problem solver. I try to find the problem and try to look for interesting and unique ways to solve those problems. And I see Batesburg-Leesville as a changing community. I see issues coming about. I see the opportunity for creative solutions. And my wife and I had a long conversation about this, and we decided that let's give this a try. She's very supportive, and we decided that that I should run and see if I could get elected firstly, and just excited about potentially having the opportunity to help solve some of the town's problems.
Well, Batesburg-Leesville is no different than any community in Lexington County. It is growing, it is adapting, it is changing, and a lot of planning and thought goes into that. If you don't, you end up with this mega sprawl like Myrtle Beach where you can't move and traffic's terrible and things are just piece part here and something looks really different over here than over there. So a lot of planning goes into this, a lot of adaptation goes into this. Where do you see Batesburg-Leesville right now in its growth?
Well, the previous council did a lot of work on preparing the town's strategic plan, and they did a great job of outlining the places that we need to be looking, things like the water and sewer systems, the traffic, the general growth, and even our new industrial center, or industrial complex, I should say. But we just need to be looking at those areas to find the long-term solutions. I'm all for growth, and growing is great. We have to grow to continue, but we have to grow responsibly, and we need to be proactive rather than reactive when it comes to putting in the infrastructure and putting in the new water lines, the new water sources, the new sewer lines and sewer treatment facilities. We have to be very proactive in that because those things don't just happen overnight. And that's where I think we should be focusing a lot of our town efforts on being proactive, building out the infrastructure, building up the support mechanisms to grow responsibly.
Sure. Now, I 100% agree. Proactive is much better than reactive. However, a lot of utility lines are old now.
Yep.
They're redoing some utility lines all over county. In fact, Casey right now has got the biggest renovation project of utility lines they've ever undertaken. So you're always having to fix the old and upgrade the old. If you're doing new and you're stretching new lines or you're replacing lines before they go bad, which is the way you should do it,
right,
it's expensive.
Yes.
Where does the money come from?
Well, that's where the town budget and the previous councils have done a pretty decent job of budgeting those allocations and that sort of thing. You know, I'm sure where we're going to head with this shortly is going to be the hospitality tax. Obviously, that funding isn't necessarily designed for maintenance and upkeep of that type of equipment, but you know, the town needs to have a very balanced budget. We need to adhere to that budget, and you know, as growth occurs, that budget will increase, but it's always the chicken before the egg situation. You know, you've got to have housing before industry comes, and you got to have industry to support housing, and it's a very delicate cycle that you've got to balance properly to continue to grow.
Yeah, well, now you said hospitality tax. Hospitality tax are not normally used for things like water and sewer lines. They're more used for parks and sidewalks and lights and those kind of things. But a lot of towns in Lexington County already have them. A lot of them are batting that around. How do you feel about hospitality taxes?
Well, you know, as anybody would say, a new tax is never good. But there's always something good that could happen from it. I think the hospitality tax would be good for our community. It's not a lot of extra cost, and a lot of people think hospitality tax is designed just for the out-of-towners, but in actuality, the residents of Batesburg-Leesville would end up paying the majority of it. So that's one thing to keep in mind there. But a town hospitality tax would be a great thing to see in Batesburg-Leesville, so long as we had non-political community oversight, you know, helping manage that fund.
I'll be honest with you, it shocks me that you say that the people in Batesburg-Leesville will pay the most of it because of Shealy's Barbecue. Because you got, every time I go up there, there's buses and people come from all over the state, from churches especially, to eat at Shealy's, and they would pay probably, 2 cents? Is that what the
I'm not sure if it was 2 cents or 1 cent. I know it was a real low level.
The number better. But it surprised me that, because the same thing is being talked about in Chapin, and in Chapin, the majority of the people that eat in the restaurants are from out of town. Yeah. You know, because Chapin's such a little teeny town, and it just shocks me that you would say that the number of people come from in town. What makes you think that the more people will pay from in town than out? Without
actually, you know, looking at seeing the numbers from the, you know, business licenses and that sort of things, because those numbers do exist. I think you would find that the number of fast food establishments and other eating opportunities that aren't necessarily tourist attractions into the town do bring in a significant amount of dollar
There's a new Taco Bell, there's McDonald's.
Exactly. So all of those places that are pretty popular for town residents, I mean, those would be the people that would be paying it more often. I guess I should say more often. Maybe not from a monetary standpoint, but you'd be paying it more often than, say, someone who was just coming into town to have dinner at Shealy's.
And a lot of people don't realize that even prepared food like at Walmart.
Yes.
So if you go buy a fried chicken, every time I go to Walmart, my daughter has to have one of those cups of popcorn chicken. You know, that is a prepared food. That would have the hospitality tax on it. But you're saying that you like to see non-political oversight. Explain what non-political oversight is.
So what I envision, and again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not involved yet, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things that I don't know yet, and that's part of, you know, the learning period here. But, you know, what I'd like to see is a group of town residents, Batesburg-Leesville residents, that form a committee that work with council to make recommendations on where they want to see improvements and the type of projects they want to see that hospitality tax used for. Then it would be the town's responsibility to be good stewards of that money and, you know, go out for quote, find the best value to achieve that job, and go to construction or, you know, renovation, whatever it is that those projects deem fit. But I don't think it should be council as a whole that solely makes those decisions on where
Sure,
that
yeah,
funding should
yeah.
be used.
And I think, I don't know about a hospitality tax, and probably Ted Luckadoo or some of the managers around could tell us. I don't think in hospitality tax that it's mandated as much as it is in accommodations tax. But in accommodations tax, once you get to a certain amount, you have to put a committee together that has a variety of people on it. So it may be the same way as hospitality tax. I honestly, like you said, there's a learning curve.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will have to give kudos to Ted and the folks in the town when they realized that they were going to have the turnover that they were going to have, and that was not a nefarious thing. Not that everybody got run off. A lot of people retired, some left for other reasons. They did prepare some pretty nice packets for the folks coming on council.
They definitely set the bar high. I mean, they just adopted the 5-year strategic plan. A lot of good ideas, a lot of good timelines in that. And this council, that majority of them were elected in last week or week before last, they're going to have a very steep learning curve. I mean, it's a lot of new faces, a lot of new people on the board that just have to get into the swing of things. Yeah,
and you got a brand new mayor at the helm, Lance Shaw.
Great guy,
a good friend of mine and a very, very good guy. And I really thought he handled the end of the meeting last week well after he took over. But a lot of services provided by Batesburg-Leesville that are not county services like so many other places that are covered by, for instance, county fire service.
Right.
So how is things like public safety in Batesburg-Leesville? Is there some work that needs to be done, or is it where it needs to be?
Well, I think Chief Oswalt with the police department, he runs a great operation.
Been there many years.
He does a good job of keeping the town safe, and officers that work with him, they're all great guys. They're out in the community. Majority of them, I believe, live in town, so that's something you don't see very much anymore. A lot of commuting officers, but we have quite a few officers that are lifelong residents or have moved into town, made it their permanent establishment. So that's good to see. Jay with the fire department. I arguably say we have some of the best equipment in the state in our little small town, and that was because of the people that care about the operation and the organization. They're not just there for a paycheck or anything like that. Being a volunteer fire department, they have done very well and very well equipped. I think our water department and our sanitation department, I think they're doing well. They've recently got some new leadership, I guess about 5 years or 10 years ago. And I think from a top level, we're pretty good when it comes to personnel and amenities that we offer the residents.
Well, the town looks nice.
Yeah.
It's inviting. A lot of folks do not know the history there. I invite you to go by and see Mike Taylor at the chamber. He can turn you on to things like the Women's Society's driving tour of Batesburg-Leesville, where you will find out the history, and the architecture is absolutely phenomenal. Wittenberg Church, and there's just so many beautiful places out there and great things to do. But now, for quality of life issues, you've got the Poultry Festival.
Right.
Wonderful festival.
Right.
Go every year, enjoy it. We streamed the parade live best we could last year. Had some internet problems we hope we've overcome, but certainly enjoyed that. Are there other things that can improve the quality of life of people in Batesburg-Leesville, and what would those projects be?
Well, one of the things that, I said this, we had a forum before the election where we all sat down and kind of asked questions amongst all the candidates, just had a very open conversation. I chose Batesburg-Leesville as the place that I wanted to live. My wife relocated from Somerville, and it's because of that small town feel that we really wanted to base ourselves here in Batesburg-Leesville. It was a great community growing up. It'll be a great community to raise children one day, and I think that small hometown feel is what makes Batesburg-Leesville so great. And by maintaining that, with our National Night Out in the Park, our Easter egg hunt, our Halloween trick-or-treating in the park, the Poultry Festival, all of those community events, they really help bring together the community. And they help neighbors know neighbors. I mean, they're bringing people outside. You're meeting the community leaders are there, the fire department, the police department are there. It's all real good camaraderie for the community, and it's a good thing.
We know Batesburg-Leesville has a huge Hispanic community.
Yeah.
At first, years ago, it was transient, in and out, depending upon what was going on. As the poultry plants built up, they stayed there. They liked it there. They have begun to be into schools from grade K through all the way through. How are they integrating with the community, and is the town doing anything to help the Hispanic community integrate?
You know, that's a good point. And from the outside looking in, there's not a lot of integration happening, and that is something that as a town we have to be very conscious of, and bringing the Hispanic population into more events, and making sure all the documentation and content that we release as a town is bilingual, and that we have the ability to communicate. I mean, it's communication, and that's a very good thing to be looking at.
Now, you bring up communication. One buzzword that you hear a lot about in government nowadays is transparency.
Yeah.
Is making things as available to the public as it can be, and making it as easy to get as it can be, so that they can not only see, read, hear, watch, but find out what is happening with the town. How transparent is town government right now, and where is that headed? Do you have any idea?
Well, under the reign of Ms. Craps, Mayor Craps, the town did a lot of reorganization in their websites, their social media platforms. Now we have easy access for all of our town council meetings online for residents that can't make the meeting or that just want to watch it at their leisure. I think the town has done a lot in the past 8 years or so to, I guess less than 8 years, but in the last 8 years or so, to increase their transparency, give the information to the people, the residents, present the information to the people and residents in a much easier, accessible way. So I think the town does a pretty good job of transparency. They make the information easy to get to.
Right, and that's so important, because getting that information out there is what I do, and people are hungry for it. We see people begging for us to do more in certain areas, to let them know what's happening in the area, and that's very, very important. Not only because of just recognition, but then again, making sure that nobody can say in the end, well, hey, I never knew. Well, you had the opportunity to know, because we have it on the website. We had the agenda out there. There's plenty of seats at the meeting.
Yep.
You can look at it on the internet. So that is very, very important. Now, the new town hall is nice. It's a great complex. Has a council part across the way where it's more comfortable to go nowadays. So that's certainly something that more people can do. It is handicap accessible.
Right.
I'm handicapped, and I was able to get in easily, find easy parking there as well. So that's very, very important. As the town moves forward, how does the finances look for that? Have you looked over the finances? Is the budget balanced? Is there money put away for a rainy day?
I'm new at this, and trying to absorb everything that has happened over the past years and stay current. I don't have a very clear vision of the budget. I've tried to focus more on policy and decisions that have been made in my candidacy to prepare myself. But as far as the budget goes, I have not really done a line-by-line look at it.
Sure.
I know that we're not asking for bailouts and things like that, so they must be doing a very good job of at least keeping it close to balanced.
When the things that you've looked at, and I know that in any community that I ever visit and the one that I live in, every time I go home, there are things I like when I drive down my road and see, and there are things I don't like. There are times I look and I go, man, I wish my neighbors could figure out how to keep the trash in the back of the truck and not on the side of the road. What are some of the things that you like about Batesburg-Leesville and don't like? And let's start with things that you would improve.
Well, the Batesburg district of Batesburg-Leesville does have I don't know any better way to put it. It has a negative impact on out-of-town business people. There are several very prominent manufacturing facilities on the Batesburg end of town, and when those opportunities bring entities in from out of town, it needs work. It needs updates. It needs revitalizing. Leesville District has done a good job of keeping their buildings in nice shape. The torn down buildings, the Main Street area is always very nice and beautiful. Batesburg District, they need to work with that, and that's part of what a Leesville resident has to look at. It's the town as a whole, and not just what side of town do I live in. We are Batesburg, Leesville, and we have to focus on issues from the entire town.
Well, now your opponent, Mr. Olin Gambrell, was the one that oversaw putting it together.
Yep.
Why is Batesburg lagging behind? Is there any reason for that?
You know, I don't know what the ultimate reason is, but if you drive through town, you can see that Batesburg just hasn't had the same growth and the same upkeep as the Leesville district has. It really does lag behind Leesville, and that's something we have to work on. We have a lot of international people that come through Batesburg on their way to Ansaldo, and we've got to look at making that area more beautiful.
Right, I understand what you're saying, and it was a little confusing me forever, because I thought for a long time, and not knowing about Batesburg Leesville, that actually the track split it, and Batesburg was on one side, and it's actually the other way. It's when you come in, you're in Leesville, and then you get into Batesburg down further down, deeper in towards Aiken County and Saluda County.
Exactly.
Now some of it even crosses over into Saluda County.
It does, yeah. Part of our district in the Batesburg end of town is in Saluda County.
What kind of things do you see that could be added to the Batesburg end of town to make it more appealing?
Well, it's mainly the revitalization of the downtown district.
And that's where, because I drove through the other day and I'm trying to get this in my mind, I turned and I went and Milton Shealy's funeral home was on the left, and then you got the older buildings right there.
Yep. Once you go over the railroad tracks, that area to your left, if Milton Shealy was on your left.
It's got the same kind of buildings that Main Street Leesville has.
Right.
They do look different.
Yeah, and that's part of what we have to work on, is maybe even giving those business owners incentives to upgrade and update the facades on their facilities, keeping that area clean and tidy.
So maybe you could find some sort of grants.
Exactly.
Sometimes there are facade grants and things that do help people to upgrade, and they have to, of course, they have to match some of their own money, and they have to do a certain amount in a certain period of time. But we have seen other Lexington County towns do that, like Swansea. But certainly I can see what you would be saying there. Now, as you get a little bit further out into the Saluda County end of town, it gets more agriculture.
Right.
There's still some beautiful homes in there, very stately old homes, big pecan trees in the yard. I mean, you think Gone with the Wind, but but certainly a beautiful area. Is there any recreation down that end?
Let's see. The Batesburg district, we have our Lexington County Leisure Center is in the Batesburg. It's right there on the kind of Batesburg-Leesville border. Once upon a time, there was a bridge that actually kind of separated the Leesville and Batesburg districts. But no, we have the Leisure Center. That's towards the Batesburg end of town. But, there aren't really any. There is a park, but it's nestled back in a more residential area. There's just a lot of opportunity for maybe even some railroad track front type parking with some seating and some benches and that sort of thing out in front of the old post office and areas like that. But just from a general perspective, it needs a little boost.
You know what I should do is back up and ask you, where is the district that you would represent?
So the district that I would represent is District 2. It is the Leesville end closest to Lexington or Gilbert area. So it is right as you come in off of Highway 1. The new industrial park is in District 2.
Fire department?
The fire department is in District 2.
The Poultry Festival grounds.
The Poultry Festival grounds, yeah. Main Street. It does kind of divide right at about Main Street, but that area is District 2.
Area I know well. I stopped at Tidwell's to get a watch battery the other day.
Yep.
So,
good people.
Good folks. So I know exactly where you're talking about. So you're talking about there, back out towards Gilbert, the old skating rink area.
Exactly. Yep.
The old car lot in the corner of the road there, or the forks of the road there, out in that area is where District 2 is.
Yes, sir.
So in that district, how is recreation? The buildings. I mean, you've got. Even though Mr. Jackie Height died, is his building still being used? Is his family still going?
Oh yeah, they're very busy. Sundays, that's the place to be. You got to get out of church and go straight there if you want to get in. Yes, sir. Yeah, so it's doing well. I think one of the biggest challenges District 2 faces would be the new industrial park. I mean, that's kind of in our district, and I would feel a little more responsible for getting and recruiting businesses to that area. You know, Batesburg-Leesville is nestled in a very unique location. We're close and accessible to the interstate, but we're also a little out of the normal traffic pattern of Columbia. You look at the growth we're seeing in Charleston, Somerville, the growth we're seeing in Greenville, Spartanburg area, we're kind of halfway in the middle. Batesburg-Leesville would be a great place for ancillary businesses to support manufacturing operations at the coast, support manufacturing operations to our north.
And you got a great rail line right through the middle of town.
Exactly, yep.
And so that certainly is there as well. Now, in that area, you've also got right outside the town, the mine, the quarry.
Yeah.
And that certainly is a hot button issue.
It is.
Stop the mine, stop the quarry, folks. How do you feel about what's going on there? I know that you don't have any real power to do anything, even if you're elected, but what's your take on the quarry? Coming, not coming?
Well,
should not come?
Yeah, who knows exactly what's going to happen with that. I think last I heard it was coming, it was going to happen. And as being a resident that lives probably, real close, I'm within the couple-mile radius of that, it does concern me. I know there's nothing I can do about it at this point, but one of the things we have to look at from a town perspective is how is the mine coming going to impact Batesburg-Leesville? And, some people say, okay, well, we're going to get some additional business. We're going to have traveling people coming through town to eat at our restaurants, buy fuel at our fuel stations, that sort of thing. But we've got to be looking at it from a negative side as well. We've got to be planning for the traffic influx that we're going to see, and these aren't going to be little small Hondas. These are going to be heavy loaded vehicles.
Truck, yeah.
So the town needs to be considering what do we do to minimize the increased deterioration of our roads and infrastructure because of this. Whether that's putting in restrictions for, heavy trucks on certain thoroughfares. We've got to be really looking at what's going to happen once this mine does come to Batesburg-Leesville. We want to be out in front of it.
Well, now, District 2 is just a part of, what, 9, how many?
It's 8 or 9.
8 or 9, something
yeah.
like that, districts. And then you're a part of Lexington County,
yeah.
and then you're a part of the state of South Carolina, and you've also got a school district in the middle of it. You've got Midlands Tech in the middle of it. You've got the Lexington County Recreation and Aging Commission in the middle of it. What is your take on working with all these? How is your relationship with folks like Larry Brigham and the county, and where do you stand as to cooperating with all these different intergovernmental agencies that make up what happens to Batesburg-Leesville?
Well, I go to church with Larry Brigham, so I know him rather well, and I think it is all about working together. And some of the ones you left out there is our friends in Saluda County with their water project. That's going to be a very critical conversation that has to be had with those folks to bring everybody back to the table, and let's sit down and talk about what we have, what they have, what we need, what they need, and let's just talk. Let's be open. Let's be out front. Let's be honest. It's not a competition. We're not necessarily in business to we're not in business against them. We're all a team. We got to play together. We got to bring everybody to the same table and play together.
Well, I noticed that for many years that's been that way with Saluda and the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
The fire department goes over into Saluda County and get built to help
Yep.
them on mutual aid, and
Yep.
oftentimes beats the Saluda County station in. I have no idea what the closest Saluda County stations are.
Yeah.
But the Batesburg-Leesville fire departments are instrumental in helping a great
Right.
deal in Saluda County, especially with things like car wrecks, with entrapments,
Yep.
where Saluda County might not be as well equipped, perhaps. But what is going on in Saluda County with water? You said there's a water project that's coming towards Batesburg-Leesville?
Yeah, there's just a little water project that's been a very heated conversation
really?
in the previous years. But yeah, Batesburg-Leesville and Saluda County had some conversations and kind of roughly entered into an agreement together to build an intake off of Lake Murray to provide the town with a second source of water. And somehow or another that agreement dissolved.
Fell apart.
It fell apart, and I know we're in a challenging time right now trying to make that deal come back together, or find alternatives to that deal, and providing, first and foremost, you got to provide the community with a water source, and if that can't be achieved, we've got to start looking other directions, towards Gilbert or towards Joint Municipal and those kind of places, to bring in clean, reliable sources of water to our town.
One thing we haven't talked about is annexation. How do you feel about annexation? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it something that needs to be considered? And how do you go forward with those kind of things?
Well, you want to grow. That's a good way to grow. I think as long as it's responsible, as long as you can do it to benefit the community, I think it's a good idea. I don't have any real negative points for that.
Well, what is good annexation? I mean, is it houses? Is it industry? Is it a mixture? How about farmland?
Well, we are nestled around a lot of farmland, but we did annex into the town not too long ago, the industrial park. I would like to see us utilize our annexes before we continue to do that. The other thing that Batesburg-Leesville does have a challenge with is housing. You look at the number of new construction, and you'd be surprised. I mean, I think it's in the single digits.
So very little new housing being built.
Exactly. So that's keeping my generation and the generation that is slightly younger than me, the 25-year-olds who are finally got their big break in their job, and they want to buy a house and move into Batesburg-Leesville, and they're struggling to find it.
All right, so let's play the devil's advocate here a little bit. There was a lot of fuss when a building went down, an older building, classic building went down to build a Taco Bell.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And there are some beautiful, beautiful homes in Batesburg-Leesville. Historic homes. Governors grew up there. Very, very influential people in the state of South Carolina grew up there. Absolutely gorgeous, but tough to maintain, tough to heat,
expensive.
I am my Chapin office right now, and I have a satellite office in Chapin. I did not realize that some of the plugs are the old two-prongers, and I've tried finding a computer that plugs into an ungrounded plug,
Exactly. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of upfitting, and you go into a room and you have one outlet, and nowadays you need 15, 20 outlets in a house. So how do we build new homes in Batesburg-Leesville and new buildings in general, commercial homes, whatever, that still fit with the old character, the beauty, the antebellum softness that Batesburg-Leesville has?
The things that make Batesburg-Leesville small town feel Batesburg-Leesville small town feel. Yeah, I think it's going to be the responsibility of council to come together and put together some guidelines for new construction. We've done a good job. The businesses that have come to town have been very respectful, and we don't have a lot of neon green, neon yellow buildings. We do have a few, but we have been very fortunate that it hasn't been more of a problem. But we do have to look at some historical preservation type things. Again, it's a very fine line that you have to follow. You don't want to become somewhere like Charleston, where if you want to repaint your shutters, it's a 6-month process, several $1,000s in permits. We don't want to do that, but we need to put some things in place to help kind of maintain some uniformity.
Well, that's interesting, because I mean, it is coming. The growth's coming.
Yeah.
I coined the phrase, and it's not my phrase, it's been used hundreds of years, but in Lexington County, I've coined the phrase many, many times, go west, young man, go west, because the truth of the matter is Lexington is outgrowing itself, and it's going west.
It's swelling.
And eventually we're going to have, I dare say that one day we will see the borders of Lexington, Gilbert, and Batesburg-Leesville touch each other.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that a bit. In the last few minutes we've got, and I want to give you a minute to tell people how to get in touch with you, how's the town's relationship with the school district?
That's very important to me, being that my wife's a school teacher. I actually got my start in my career working for the school district, so I know a lot of people there. Some have long gone and retired, but keeping the town, working with the school district is a high priority. We have to maintain the quality of schools that we have. That's gonna drive people to us. That's gonna keep people staying here. Educating your child is very important. and we've got to make sure that from a town perspective that they're getting the best they can from Batesburg-Leesville schools.
I've always been impressed with Dr. Gary. He came on
Great
Good
guy.
Morning
Yeah,
Lexington
he's a great
County.
guy.
He is all about technology and bringing kids in. The new firemen that they're hiring now to teach firefighting at the schools will allow you to not only have a new crop of volunteer firefighters in the Batesburg-Leesville area, but will provide Lexington County. And Lexington County has a pretty huge deficit in firefighters.
Yeah.
You'll have certified firefighters coming out ready to go. So it's amazing to see what he can do. I know that Chief Sonnenfeld over in Irmo Fire District told me he cannot afford to hire a green firefighter with no training. He has to hire firefighters that have certifications because of the fact that it's so expensive to have them on salary while you train them.
Right.
So that's definitely a good idea. But I am very much a Dr. Gary fan. He does a great job up there. Mackenzie, the new PIO, I work very closely with her, do a good job. It's just changing as everything else is in Lexington County, and it's all about steering that change. How do people get a hold of Tripp, and what would you like to say about tomorrow?
So, social media is a great way to reach out to me. You can also find me at vote.tripp with 2 P's, Williamson.com. I've got a little website that I threw together that has, kind of my responses that I've given to other media outlets, as well as a contact form. My phone number is listed there as well. So feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email, hit me up on Facebook. I'm a young guy. I can communicate in many, many forms. If you're on the ham radio, I'm even on ham radio. You can find me there. So, I'm a very accessible person.
Well, it's sad though that I would bet you that the voter turnout tomorrow is going to be abysmal, and that is sad.
It's going to be challenging. Our voter turnout for the major election was, in my opinion, pretty sad.
Below 20%.
Yeah, it was low.
Yeah, and tomorrow is a special, and specials normally get low.
Even lower.
So get out and vote tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Make your voice heard. Don't go to council meetings. Don't go to church. Don't go to the diner and complain afterwards if you did not vote. Look, you can find Tripp on Facebook. You can find him on his website. You can also email me, and I'll give you his number. But make sure that you get out tomorrow and vote. We're going to update you real quickly. Some other things going on. Augusta Road at Woodbury, another crash. Be careful there. Cromer Road at 378, right at the interstate, a crash. Cassadell and Wood Trail, right out on off of Fish Hatcher Road, a crash, and then they're still showing the one at the I-26, at the 104. Until tomorrow, as we say every day, we love you, we love Lexington County. Good day and God bless from Good Morning Lexington County.